I believe that you had a good time of celebrations, you that are so much into the celebrations. So we thank the Lord who has preserved you. Because us being here, there are many that have already lost their lives within the holiday that we have just started. So we are indeed very grateful to the Lord for having preserved us. So I'll ask you to get the copy of God's word in your hand. And let us learn once more. The dedication I have made to the Lord is to teach His people until He calls me home. So today we shall consider a message that will guide us as pertaining to the new year that every man and woman is looking forward to. And I want to concentrate on a theme that I have called trusting in God's wisdom and taking comfort in His overruling hand. Trusting in God's wisdom and taking comfort in His overruling hand. Of course, we are a few days away to the new year. And as I've already said, even now I want to re-echo some of the words I said in the previous years. That you ought to be prepared to hear several church leaders claiming to have received. The first one is what? The first one is what? Because by now you should be knowing. I have written here prophetic visions, prophetic words, prophetic revelations, visions, special words, and mantles for 2026. These are special mantles we are talking about, my brothers. But as I've always encouraged you, I am here again to encourage you. Do not believe them. Why should you not believe them? This has become an anthem to us as a church. Why? Because there is no longer more speaking of God to anyone today in the world. God is not speaking to any person outside that which is written. And as I've always echoed it, I have made it very clear that the last speaking of God is a person that is known as Jesus Christ. So where do we find the words of Christ? We do not find them outside that which is written. We find them in the external word. That's why Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 to 2 is very crucial in a moment of time where you and I are living. To remind people of these words that I also want to read for us. Long ago, many times, and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers. Tenses are indeed very important for one to consider. Spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, He has. It's not about. He has spoken to us by His Son, whom He has appointed the heir of all things. My dear ones, these are realities that we shouldn't go wrong about. But it is very unfortunate that there are many who actually want to claim their relevance by putting words in the mouth of God, because that has been the norm of many men and women in different centuries. One proves his relevance by always saying that he has gotten something new. Let us first consider a little bit of Jeremiah 23, verses 28. This is what it says. Let the prophet, Jeremiah 23:28, let the prophet who has a dream tell the dream. Now, at the actually quick observation of that statement, you might think that is endorsing. But the thing that he's doing is actually in one or the other making a mockery of these men and women. So he says, let the prophet who has a dream tell a dream. The good news is in that word that is known as but. But let him who has my word speak my word faithfully. If the dreams were to be the thing that we are to look onto to hear God speaking to us, the word would have said, let the prophet who has a dream tell my dream faithfully. Are you seeing the difference? The difference is with the word but. But let him who has my word indicate many do have dreams, but few do have his word. And they that have his word, the admonition is that they should teach it faithfully. That's it to say, what has straw in common with wheat? Now understand this. When you compare dreams to the written word that one bases his faith on, the one who lives by dreams is compared to the one that has what we may call the husks or the shells of peanuts or rice. It's what he calls straw and actually wheat, which is food. So there are many gatherings that are going to be fed on straw. But there will also be some gatherings that are going to be fed on wheat. But what does God desire? He desires that his real congregation should be fed on wheat. We go ahead to see what he continues to say. Look at what he says. Declares the Lord. Verses 29. Is not my word like fire? The text does not say, isn't my dream? God is not for the dreams, my dear ones. And that ministry of being a dream pastor is not there. So the thing we see is not my word like fire, declares the Lord. And like a hammer, there is no any dream which is like fire and like what? They will okay and you tell them these things. That's what it says. That breaks the rocks in pieces. 30. Therefore, behold, I am against the one who teaches the word faithfully. I know you'll not agree with me. Because you know that it is not what the text is saying. Behold, I am against the prophets, declares the Lord, who steal my words from one another. Behold, I am against the prophets, declares the Lord, who use their tongues and declares the Lord. Isn't that what they do? Declares the Lord. So they copy one another, and when they copy one another, they want to say that they are being commissioned or sent by God, but God has not sent them. They use their tongues. Verses 32. Behold, I am against those who prophesy lying dreams. Let me just try just a little bit for you, actually, Mama Daniel. Just had a special dream about your needs and desires. Amen. So this is what it says. Behold, I am against those who prophesy lying dreams, declares the Lord, and who tell them and lead my people astray by their lies and their recklessness, when I did not send them or charge them, so they do not profit these people at all, declares the Lord. But I'm telling you, everything that is against is what is actually many are planning to give out to different gatherings. As I've always said, for me, I don't get dreams, I don't get revelation. I only study and pray. That's how my sermons come. I study and I also pray. I don't hear voices. I guess I am actually among the few that are less privileged that do get visions. Well, that's okay with me because I believe scriptures are sufficient. So I want to guide you pertaining to the new year that is actually ahead of us. And I want you to write for me this statement because it's going to keep on coming in the words I'm going to say to you. When you have all that you ought to do as part of your human responsibility, when you have done all that you ought to do as part of your human responsibility, trust in God's wisdom and take comfort in His overruling hand. I want to emphasize it again. When you have done all that you ought to do as part of your human responsibility, trust in God's wisdom and take comfort in His overruling hand. And now when you've done all of that, this is what I propose should be your summary statement. And I will try to actually expound onto it using a number of biblical texts. After you've done everything that you ought to do as part of your human responsibility, this now has gotten to be your summary statement. May the Lord do what seems good to Him. May the Lord do what seems good or best to him. I'm emphasizing this point because there is nothing you and I can count on to God before you and I do what we are called to do. And this summary statement I've given you throughout the scriptures, it seems to be the pattern of many people that have taken comfort in the overruling hand of the Lord. So even for you, as I set up this, there are many plans, there are many dreams, many ideas, and many things that might be running in your mind. But one thing I want to caution you about is you trusting in the wisdom of God and you taking comfort in his overruling hand as far as the year that awaits of you and beyond. I will emphasize that what you ought to do, please do it diligently. But even after you've done everything, it's good for you to rest your work and issues in actually the overruling hand of the Lord. For you to say, may the Lord do what seems good or best to him. Let us begin by considering 2 Samuel. The chapter is 10. And I'm going to consider verses 6 to verses 14, Lord willing, so that we can see how best we can put things in their rightful order here. So the best you can do for me is to pay attention, because I desire that we all do well. But the best way for us to do well is for us also to have our theology in its rightful place. So we need to know how to go about things, not like many people outside there who have not been introduced to some of the truths that we want to consider as a fellowship. So look with me in chapter 10 verses 6. Already we sang a hymn that says that he leadeth me, and we said it is indeed a blessed thought. But the way he leads you, it actually begins by you trusting in his wisdom, and you taking comfort in his overruling hand. This is what it says in verse 6. When the Ammonites saw that they had become a stench to David, the Ammonites sent and hired the Syrians of Beth Rehab and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 foot soldiers, and the king of Makkah with 1,000 men, and men of Tob 12,000 men. Verse 7. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab. Now this is a major character we are going to actually consider so very much, and see how he moves along in doing his master's work. This is what it has to say. And all of the host of the men, I think I've skipped something. And all the host of the mighty men. So what happens when David gets to understand that the Ammonites had changed their mind against him? Because they saw themselves as if David was having ill intentions against them. They began hiring different armies to fight against David and his army. So your verse 7 comes to play. When David heard of it, indicating that they had hired people to come against them, he sent Joab and all the host of the mighty men. I hope we are very clear. Verses 8. And the Ammonites came out and drew up in the battle array by the entrance of the gates. They were the first to move forward against David and his nation. Please follow very carefully. And the Syrians of Zobah and of Rehob and the men of Tob and Makkah were by themselves in the open country. Verses 9. When Joab saw the battle was set against him, both in front and in the rear, he chose some of the best men of Israel. I want you to be very careful about what Joab does. The first thing I am actually indicating is that you and I have gotten to carry out our human responsibility. We don't just go to God in prayer and just say, you know what, I am going to pray about that. What we ought to be doing, we ought to be doing. That's very important. When Joab saw that the battle was set against him, both in front and behind, he chose some of the best men of Israel. The same thing I would indicate to you even as you think about the new year. You have gotten to do your very best pertaining to things that you're supposed to be doing. Don't loosely handle things. And the Bible adds in to say, and arrayed them against the Assyrians. Verses 10. The rest of his men he put in the charge of Abisai, his brother, and he arrayed them against the Ammonites. Now something very important there in verses 11 for us to see. And he said, if the Assyrians are too strong for me, then you shall help me. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come and help you. So now look at verses 9 to 11 very carefully. If you've been always reading the Old Testament, the character of Joab is not new. But here what we are considering in verses 9 to 11, these verses show us Joab appearing at his very best. Doing what any of us would have done in case we find ourselves in a battle. We see how he organizes himself and the day that he was commanding. The first two things to consider is this. You as an individual, you need to be organized. And make sure that you as an individual, looking at what we are seeing here, you do what you ought to do. But when we come also to the larger picture, as a body of Christ, as a gathering together of the saints in this place, we have also gotten to work together, my dear ones. Remember, the Bible does not teach a common language. People say that what will be, will be. There's a popular notion that if God is sovereign, whatever will be, will be. It's what we call fatalism. The Bible does not teach it. The Bible teaches what we call human responsibility. And that's the same thing I want also to begin by highlighting out for us. That when you look at this gentleman here, before even any prayer takes place, there are certain things that are expected of us. Don't just die in prayer over things that you know you ought to be doing. If some things have to be taken actually in order in your house, or with your finances, or with any other thing, first see that you work on the things that you as an individual ought to be doing. Okay, for you that are work employed by someone, in case they tell that this is the time you should arrive, make sure that you do your individual responsibility to do everything possible to get there on time. Don't be just there saying, I trust in the Lord. Let me first continue more in prayer. The Lord understands. He will cover me. I am a child of God, and I cannot go to my workplace before I really pour out my heart before the Lord. To which I say, do that, but keep the time. Keep your time, because God is not going to fix what you are supposed to be doing. And so, look at this one very carefully. In verses now 11, see what he does. Be of good courage. To the same actual reality I communicate. As an individual, you've gotten to be courageous, to always encourage yourself in every situation. Do you know that a year awaits of us that you and I have not lived in before? We don't know the troubles that await of us. We don't know the opportunities that await of us. It calls for us being what? Courageous. And so one thing that you basically see that Job does is this. Verses 12. Be of good courage. He speaks to his comrades. And let us. Now I also come to us corporately as a church. If we are going to be able to move forward, all of us have to be united in the cause of encouraging ourselves. But one more other thing that we also see. Be courageous for our people. For us, we are courageous for one sole purpose. Not only for our own families, but we strive for the glory of the Lord in everything that we encounter. And he says for the cities of God. And now look at where now he resteth everything that he has planned himself with the army. The summary statement comes in. May the Lord do what seems good to him. We are fully organized. We have done what we have gotten to be doing as part of our human responsibility. And if we are to trust in the wisdom of the Lord and take comfort in his overruling hand, certain things we are called to do, we have gotten to do them. And if I have done my part very well that the Lord instructs of me to do, I am never wrong to say the same thing Job says here. May the Lord Do what seems good to him. That indicates many things. One of the reality, when you say like Joab said, people will say that is a statement of unbelief. Someone will say you are lacking faith. You are not sure. Why are you not sure? But the assurance is not in us. The assurance is in God. We count on God to bring to pass. You having your plans is not bad. But there is one who can choose to prosper them or not to prosper them. So that's why I'm saying that even as we look onto this new year, my first emphasis to you is very simple. Do your human responsibility very diligently. And I would love when you're done, like a woman in a restaurant who runs and he buys 2 kilos of meat, not knowing the ones that are going to eat. You bring also some beans. Prepare also the cowpeas. Fish nut also there. Offals also there. But they never called her. That may I'll eat fish nut. May I'll also eat what? They prepare. So a Christian woman who runs a restaurant, after she has done everything that she knows to do in her power, she has cooked very well. The place is quite clean. And now she looks onto people that aid her, who work together with her, and say, are we set? May the Lord do what? Do what seems what? Because everything is prepared, Lord, we have done our part. That you expect of us to do. So we are asking you to do what is best for you pertaining to our situation. Get where we are going. So it's important that we understand that a mere looking at verses 12, we see a man surrendering all his organization into the sovereign hand of God. And so I'm also to encourage you, if there are certain things you have been avoiding to do, you as an individual, you know, there are certain things you've been avoiding to do. Do not allow this other new year to be another year where you actually look away from some of the things that you ought to do that you have not been doing. So let us understand, what does this statement generally mean? May the Lord do what seems good to him. And I'll try to actually bring in many applications for you to understand that for sure. Every time we encounter a new day, a new month, a new year, we have gotten to trust in the wisdom of God. And we have gotten to actually take comfort in his overruling hand. Just keep where you are. So the first statement that I want you to understand when we talk about this statement and what it means. May the Lord do what seems good to him can mean first thing in line. That my God is sovereign over all things. That's the first thing. The second thing is, may the Lord do what seems good to him could also mean that since human life is a warfare, one thing that is true, may the Lord do what seems good to him is a perfect exhortation. It is a statement of encouragement that as some trust in horses and chariots, I will trust in the Lord. Number 3. When we say may the Lord do what seems good to him, it is a statement that acknowledges that all plans and all battles belong to God. It can also mean that we are acknowledging that all battles and plans belong to God, physical and spiritual. Furthermore, for us to add, when we say, may the Lord do what seems good to him, this one is very important also. We are also saying that we are leaving the issue, to the Lord on whom success depends. We are leaving the issue to the Lord on whom success depends. So in this context, it is upon you to look for the one that would actually communicate rightly what I want to say to you. When we look back to Joab and his preparation, by the time he says, may the Lord do what seems good to him, is in other words saying one simple reality. I trust in God's wisdom and I take comfort in his overruling hand. It is the same thing for him to say, I leave the issue of our organization on you, unto whom success of our battle depends. And indeed, now let us look back there and see whether the prayer was answered. It is not automatic, my dear ones, that if you've done all that you've gotten to do, things are going to work out the way you expect them. That's the reason I am talking to you the way I am talking to you. That much as we have gotten to do that which we ought to be doing, never should you have self-confidence that now that I have done whatever I am called to do, it's going to work out. The moment you say like this, that may the Lord do what seems best or good to him, you are allowing him to exercise his sovereignty over your situation. You are acknowledging the fact that I don't know all the things, but I rest my case in your hands. I know you'll do good. See what it says there in verse 13, after he had said that simple prayer. So Joab and the people who were with him drew near to the battle. Don't just say, no, what, now that I've made that prayer, also sit down. I have already said my words, God. What else do you want from me? For us, we are stubborn. So Joab, I thought he only just said this and then, let the Assyrians come. Let the Ammonites come. I have said, may the Lord do what seems good to him. That is still fatalism. You are saying, whatever will be, will be. And some people also had them at school. If I pass that exam, I pass. If I don't pass, who's going to do it for you? So this is the same thing in life. we do what we have gotten to do. We ask the Lord to actually do what is best to Him. But as all that is done, we continue being active in carrying out our responsibilities. So Joab and the people that were with him drew near to the battle against the Assyrians, and they fled before him. Are you saying the Lord doing what is best to him? And they did what? And they fled before him. And when the Ammonites saw that the Assyrians fled, this is not Joab fighting. There is one who is doing everything. You get what I'm saying? The Bible says, and when the Ammonites saw that the Assyrians fled, they likewise fled before Abisai and entered the city. And then Joab returned from fighting against the Ammonites and came to Jerusalem. My dear ones, there are two things that we have considered already. Joab and his team carrying out their human responsibility. But on top of that, they realize that the success does not depend on their preparation. So save all you can. Work hard as you ought to. But don't convince yourself that doing the things you ought to be doing is an automatic case for you. So I'm assigning to you a summary statement. After you've done all that you've gotten to do, don't forget to put your complete trust in the wisdom of God and taking comfort in His overruling hand. He's the one that governs all things. I think you can also read the statement by one of the theologians. This is what he said. This is what he said. We can neither foresee. We can neither foresee nor control the circumstances that lie ahead of us. And because of that, we cannot make promises. I pray that the Lord will use these things, my dear ones, for you. I want to react again. We can neither foresee nor control the circumstances that lie ahead of us. And because of that, we cannot make promises. It is why it is important for you and I, after having done all that we ought to be doing, to rest our case before the sovereign and say, may the Lord do what seems good to Him. So in all those New Year's resolutions, as people talk, what should be a standard statement for you is what? I am not saying you don't write them. Please understand what I'm saying. But amidst writing them, writing is simple. Begin to work towards some of those resolutions you're looking toward too. But as you're doing all those particular things, what should remain a constant to you is to know that the victory does not depend on you, it depends on God. So we do not really know what lies ahead of us, whether opportunities or challenges. But we trust in His sovereign wisdom that He knows what is best for us. First thing, for His glory. Second thing, for our joy. Another example from the scripture, 2 Samuel still. You guys should look out for some of my Old Testament teachings. I have many, they are very nice. Some of you are used to seeing me in the New Testament. I have good Old Testament teachings. And I love them so much. Look at 15. The verse is, for the sake of time, let us consider verse 13 to 14, and then we shall consider others. 2 Samuel. So you realize that one thing I've been always capitalizing on is to beat out of you anything that is to do with your self-consuming arrogance that you'll make it. Last time I told you that our times are what? And now I'm coming to you telling you that trusting in God's wisdom and taking comfort in His governing hand. Look at this one here. 15:13. And a messenger came to David, saying, if you want to understand the storyline, you'll understand what we are dealing with. And a messenger came to David, saying, the hearts of the men of Israel have gone after Absalom. Information has come. Does David actually disregard with a message? He does what he ought to do. Look at your 14. Then David said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee. Remember? When you and I have done all that we ought to be doing, we are to trust in the wisdom of God and take comfort in His overruling hand. Arise, let us free. He does what is the right thing to be done because he has been in power. If my son has taken over power, he will do anything, even if it means killing me as his father. So whatever it is that you major in as an individual belonging to this local fellowship, just be diligent with your human responsibility. And trust the Lord for the outcome of it all. It says that, look at now what it adds in to say. Or else there will be no escape for us from Absalom. He didn't just stand there and just pray. Let us pray. It's not bad to fast pray, but the thing here, there is a person that is coming against us. So what he says, go quickly. He's doing what he ought to do. So this is him having an adversary. But when it comes maybe to you as a father, as a mother, you might be having different things that you need also to work on. Or if you are still actually single, there may be certain things you need to work on. Diligently. Just you trying to do your part very well, and you continue to wait and see what the Lord will do. Certain aspects of your life you need to change about, you change. And many things. And the Bible adds it to say, and bring down ruin on us. And strike the city with the edge of the sword. That is David now saying, let us run away. Look to your verses now, 23. What happens there? Verses 23. And all the land wept aloud as all the people passed by. And the king crossed the brook Kidron And other people passed on towards the wilderness. So they realized there was something, a circumstance that was not good. They did not just hear the king say, but they moved, they did what the king was telling them to move quickly. The dear ones continue observing. In verses 24, and Abiathar came up, and behold, Zadok came also with all the Levites, bearing the ark of the covenant of God. Remember, they have the presence of God, but issues are there. Because the ark represents the presence of God. And who tells you that because you have Jesus in you, you don't have to do what you ought to do? See now what happens. And they set down the ark of God until the people had all passed out of the city. Then the king said to Zadok, carry the ark of God back into the city. Now, listen to the words of David, my dear ones. He has done all that he ought to be doing and is still doing what he ought to be doing. Hear his statement. If I find favor in the eyes of the Lord, if I find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me back and let me see both it and his dwelling place. One thing that is a clear reality, dear ones. Don't miss this one here. David also shows us the same thing that Joab did the other side. He has done what he had to be doing, but at the same time knowing that though he had done nothing wrong, he still actually sought for the Lord's favor. And behold, look at verses 26. But if he says, I have no pleasure in you, behold, here I am. Let him do to me what seems good to him. The thing that I want to disconstruct from you is this. This way of thinking that because I do everything right, therefore I expect everything to work out. No way. It's what I am laboring to convince you that even when you've done everything right, it is not a guarantee that things are going to work out the way you had planned them to work. And you see, David is also saying, Lord, unto whom success depends, I trust in his wisdom. If he desires and he has seen, he has had mercy on me, he will bring me back. If he chooses none, that is the best thing to him that he thinks is good for me. Now, look at that verses 26 very well, my dear ones. Ask yourself a question. Why do we have this statement again coming from one of the outstanding characters? I want to add you something. Every time you and I say, may the Lord do what seems good or best to him. Listen very carefully. We are actually voicing out our knowledge of God's character. That because he knows what is best for his people, he can do nothing but what is best and good for his people. Very important that we consider that. And that's the attitude I want you to have for this new year. Trust that God knows what is best for you. That's why you've gotten to say, may the Lord do what seems good or best to Him. Even when He afflicts us, He does it because it is the good thing for us. And more persuasion you see comes here. Don't cover where we are, but just flip a little bit and come to Proverbs chapter 16. Proverbs 16. You need to be different from people that you communicate with. Let them hear you always depending, always asking for the Lord's will to be done. We are not sufficient of ourselves. But the truth we have gotten to learn of God, we use it to continue to guide us onto how we are to say certain things and how not to say certain things. Remember, we have already just said here, quoting one of the theologians, that since we cannot foresee anything, and the fact that we cannot control anything, all the circumstances ahead of us, is why we do not make promises. That this and this will be because I have done ABCD. 1633. It is very amazing. See what it says. So don't make promises. I'll do ABCD. Come 2026. This is what I plan to do. I'll do this one, I'll do the other thing and the other thing. And others say, I think it might be a year that compensates for me the 3 years behind where I did nothing. So it has to be a year of compensation. I failed in 2022. 2023. Things I should have done, I did not do. Even 2024, I thought I would do, I never did. And my hope was now in 2025. But I believe 2026 is a year of my compensation. You are making a promise, but you do not know what lies ahead. Have you seen 33? The Lord is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. The English said that the Aleba does what? Let me tell you, that's common sense. But don't also depend so much on your common sense. You can be early, and if it does not seem good to God, you'll be an early bird, and you catch nothing. And again, the caveat is, do your level best to be an early what? Because I know I'm a human being like you. Why listen we say? We don't know what will happen. However, we do what we ought to do. And we trust in the wisdom of God. The one that governs things. He might see to good that you come late and things work. You can imagine I was late, but the lines just fell in my place. So you begin always being late. And then you say, why are things not working? Sometimes, in His good wisdom, He might do something because He saw it good to do it to you or for you. But it is not true that in every circumstance or situation we know what God would actually see as good. And the good we are talking about, what seems good to him is what brings him glory. So look at this. You all played those things of those certain games where they get a dice and then you no one can indeed be able to just say no, it's going to be 6. When we were growing up, we would guess, and sometimes then you think that I know it. But it is good to just allow the 6. So you try the second time, you get it, you say, I'm above all of you guys. So now you leave the game, you begin now actually betting and say, now we are going to get to, I want you now to prophesy 6 of them 3 times. Nothing comes. So even in those simple games where you think that there is nothing, but God overrules all things. Now, look at this one very well. We have seen what David said in 15, 23 to 26. Now, see the response in chapter 22. Sometimes it might be in chapter 22 when God is going to do something for you. So, 22, 18 to 20. Look at this one here. He rescued me. We have seen they were taking him, and he was also saying, let us move very fast. He rescued me from my strong army enemy, from those who hated me, for they were too mighty for me. They confronted me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my support, and He brought me out into the broad place. He rescued me because He delighted in me. If the Lord delights in you, He will do what actually is glorifying to Him. Very important. Look at Numbers. Numbers chapter 14. Also consider something there that is very vital for us to consider. So I'm again making an emphasis, my dear ones. Whether it is 2026 or other years beyond, as long as we are still alive and sober, you and I should ask God indeed to fulfill the good pleasure of His will, so that in every situation you show your dependence on Him. Don't seek your own good pleasure, seek the good pleasure of the Lord to be done. Do you know it was the Lord's will, as you've often heard from the scriptures, that Paul should have a thorn in the flesh? It was actually God's good will for him. It was His good will, or the pleasure of His good will, that Paul would be beheaded, that actually James the Apostle would also be beheaded, and many other people throughout church history that have seen several challenging issues. So that's why we should always ask God fulfill the good pleasure of His will. Lord, what do you want to accomplish in my life as far as this situation? And so before you, I say, may you do to me what seemed good to you. Look at this one in 14. The verse 7. This is Caleb and Joshua. Verse 7. And say to all the congregation of the people of Israel, the land which we passed through to spy it out is an exceedingly good land.
This is what you should also learn from these guys. It is him who told them that they should go and spy the land. It is him who was good. But they also knew that much as that land the Lord was the one who told us to go and spy it, there is nothing that God counts about us to give us that land. That's why it says what it says. If the Lord delights in us, now this is corporately, but you as an individual, this could be something for you. But if the Lord delights in me, He will do A, B, C, D in my life. Such prayers are now rare because people have gotten into much thing to do with commanding God and speaking positively. You do not know what the Lord might delight to do in your life in that particular circumstance or situation. Maybe to protect you or to call you back home. Maybe to prosper your work or to allow some challenges as it continues to form you the way He wants it to form you. And so they say, if the Lord delights in us, He will bring us into the land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. And some people are going to be told this, that 2026 is going to be a year of milk and what? But look at that individual responsibility. Only do not rebel against the Lord. Do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their protection is removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. Very important. Go back to 1 Samuel. And now I want you to learn also something from Eli the priest, how actually the priesthood was being taken away from him. But the response shows that this is a person who had also known that God in His wisdom will always do what is good. If He wants me to remain a prophet, He will. I mean a priest, He will. If He wants to give it to another person, that is one thing He has seen to be good. So come back to yourself as an individual, because as we look into these biblical characters, it is the same thing that you yourself, you need to ponder about yourself. You know where you are, you know yourself well, and you know your relationship with God, how it is standing. It is not bad each and every time to always say the words that we see these holy ministers of the Lord say. Now, because of time still, I want to use verses 15 to 16 to 18. So, but I urge you, if you get time, you'll just read the entire thing. This is what it says in 15. And Samuel lying until morning. Then he opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. But Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he said, here I am. And Eli said, what was it that he told you? That he told you is God altogether. There are things God had said to the young man. He said, I'm going to make you this, I'm going to make you this. So they were transferring responsibility from Eli to another person. And so now Eli didn't know what God was doing. So now he asked the young man, what did the Lord tell you? And see what happens here. 17. And Eli said, what is it that she told you? We're in 1 Samuel chapter 3, my dear ones. I am now on verse 17. He told him that, do not hide it from me. Someone who wants to get information from you. See what he added in. See what he added in. He said this. May God do so to you. And more also, if you hide anything from me. And Samuel has to be scared because this guy has been serving the Lord before him. So this guy tells him that may the Lord, he might say, this guy has always been used by the Lord. Let me tell you. And so the text adds it to say, in 18, so Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. Now this is the response of Eli. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him. If he has chosen to take the priesthood away from me, to give it to another house, this is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him. And this is one thing I am saying. That when you look at these verses 18 pertaining to the response of Eli, we should learn from these men, my dear ones. That in this new year, if the Lord chooses to add something to us or to take something away from us, individually and corporately, may the Lord do what seems good to him. At the end of the day, we are seeking his glory, not our own glory. So we are to trust in his wisdom. We are to take comfort in his overruling hand. Without murmuring or complaining, God knows what he's doing. Let us consider another example from James chapter 4. It's good always to acknowledge the sovereignty of God in everything. Acknowledge it. Don't be like people promising them so things God has not told them. We want to have men and women that always delight in God doing what seems to be good to him. I want to be a husband and someone wants to be a wife that delights in God doing what seems best or good to him. We are his people. He knows what is good and best for us. Look at 4:13. This is what it says. Come now, you say, today or tomorrow, we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make profit. It's a common language. And we have all been there. 14. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Dear ones, look at 15. Instead, you ought to say, are you seeing that the verse is very instructive in nature? From a wrong way to say to a right way to say. It says, instead you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this and that. That statement should appear in your New Year's resolution. You fully resting in the wisdom of God, and you taking comfort in His overruling hand. I also want to remind you one thing, that if I try to break that statement furthermore pertaining to may the Lord do what seems best or good to Him, it is the same thing that means that come good or bad, come good or bad, I will do my level best in areas that I'm called to do my level best. So when you begin to say, may the Lord do what seems best or good to Him, you are also saying the fact that I don't know that everything pertaining to the wisdom of God. Whether your days are good to come for me, or your days are bad to come for me, I'll do my level best. And these are some of the areas that you could actually have your application. I'm going to give you mine and then you'll also write yours. That when I learn to say, may God do what seems best or good to Him, I am in one way that I'm also saying, come good or bad, I will do my very best to pray, to read His word, to submit to my wife, to my husband, to love my wife, to model and disciple my children, to disciple others and to love them, to work hard, to invest, to serve the Lord, to give generously to the Lord's work, to proclaim the gospel to others without stopping. I'll do my level best. Avoid bad influences, and even you can add many other things. That yes, you do not control the circumstances ahead of you, but it should not stop you from doing your level best in the areas that you are called to do something. It is bad for you to say, the fact that I cannot foresee what will happen, I don't know whether good will come or bad, therefore I have lost the morale. Don't do that. Even for these years, there may have been particular things you wanted to get. So let it not demoralize you for even the coming year, for you not to do what you ought to do. Do what you ought to do. Whether good comes But you don't control. Or bad comes that you don't control. You have to encourage yourself to do your very best. In all areas of your life and even in our corporate gathering. Every one of us should be able to voice out God's character. I know my God will do what is best. That's why we know that even what seems to be bad, God knows how to use it for our very good. So I pray that these few thoughts I've shared with you as I was pondering onto them, the Lord would use them for you also to see the areas where you need to do your level best, but at the same time fully trusting in God's wisdom. And taking comfort in His overruling hand. There is nothing to fear. The earth and its fullness belongs to God. Let us do our responsibilities. As a church, the things we have been doing that we are to continue to do. And may the Lord do what is best to Him. We are not going to change anything we have been doing because we didn't get the results we were expecting to get. If I've been loving on my wife, I'm going to continue doing so. And may the Lord do what is best to Him. If my wife chooses not to submit to me, that's so what is true is that I don't control this order, but I do what I am supposed to do. Because the challenge where you and I are so very much stuck is that we want to have something motivate us to do right. If I expect to get good response, therefore I'll continue to do good. Do good though you do not know the response, do what is good. Teach those children, you don't know what they will become, whether believers or they will continue to be unbelievers. You do what is right. And may the Lord do what is best to Him. In all areas, look around and just actually attach that statement and say, Lord, this is what you tell me to do. So we have gotten to learn some of these things, my dear ones. We don't enter the new year blindly or the rest of the years blindly.